Welcome to Daily Office Devotions. I'm Reggie Kidd, and every Monday through Friday, I offer devotional observations on some portion of that day's readings for morning prayer in the Book of Common Prayer. Thanks so much for joining me this Friday following the 10th Sunday after Pentecost. This happens to be year 2 of the daily lectionary, and this week we are in Proper 15. Our readings today come from Job chapter 2, Acts chapter 9, and John chapter 6. We're going to focus mainly on Job today. In the first 2 chapters of Job, we learn some important lessons. God is in control. Through the image of a heavenly court, we are led to understand that above the tumult here on earth, there is divine governance. The one who has identified himself as Yahweh, the Lord, is God over all. However, there are other spiritual personalities in the heavens, and they include a figure who is something like a prosecuting attorney who takes a role that is like that of the serpent in the garden. His title is the Satan, the accuser, and he is an adversary of the human race. Satan is not in control. One of the most important perspectives that the book of Job communicates is that this Satan has only limited power. He is on a leash, and the leash is firmly in the hands of Yahweh. As determined as Satan is to do harm to humans, Yahweh turns those efforts to the benefit of humans and to the accomplishment of his own purposes. This is a perspective that flows throughout Scripture, culminating in the book of Revelation, where time and again, evil happens only to the extent that authority is granted. For example, Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, chapter 9, verse 3, chapter 11, verse 6, and chapter 16, verse 9. One of the most difficult and important lessons of the book of Job is that God is so good that, as Bruce Waltke puts it in his Old Testament theology, he transcends both what people call good and bad. Within his government, both have a place. All is good in that they serve his plan, though the human creature cannot know it or understand it. Page 942. A whisper of redemption. In a sense, eerily reminiscent of the garden, Job's wife takes Satan's side with her denunciation, "Curse God and die." Unlike Adam, Job resists. With his no to evil, he says yes to God. Though his yes will be sorely tested, it will prove to be a true yes. It will place God on the side of God's restorative plans for the whole human race. The evil that was first heard in the serpent's hiss in the garden and has been repeated here, both in the heavenly courts and in Job's home, will ultimately be silenced. Friendship and just being there. Today's passage introduces us to Job's 3 friends. Throughout the rest of the book, they show themselves to be shallow, know-it-all fools. But for a week, they act like true friends. They identify with Job in his pain, they share his grief, and they sit with him in silence. Job chapter 2, verses 12 and 13. If they had been better friends, they would perhaps have stayed quiet longer. Something for each of us to remember when we see a friend in pain. They need our presence rather than our platitudes. Hope's reward. Clinging to hope by his fingernails, in chapter 14, Job reaches toward a faith in final vindication. "Oh, that you would hide me in Sheol, that you would conceal me until your wrath is past, that you would appoint me a set time and remember me. My transgression would be sealed up in a bag, and you would cover over my iniquity." Job chapter 14, verses 13 and 17. Today's accounts of Jesus' appearance to Saul in Acts and Jesus' self-declaration to the people as bread of life in John are a thrilling tandem. Saul's zeal leads him at first to the rejection of God's set time and the mystery of his covering over of iniquity in the unexpected death of the Messiah. But on the road to Damascus, the risen and ascended Jesus reveals himself in literally blinding light as the answer to the kind of hope that Job had refused to let go of. And Jesus admonishes his listeners by explaining that the bread their forebears had tasted in the Exodus journey was merely a foretaste of an eternally satisfying meal that he himself both is in himself and brings in the Eucharist. I pray you know and cling with confidence to that hope, no matter what. Be blessed this day.